Sandy Cuny, Vice Chair of the Community Preservation Committee. I want to thank you and welcome you all to the annual needs assessment hearing of the Community Preservation Committee. Every year, the CPC holds a hearing which is mandated by the Community Preservation Act to listen to the citizens of Falmouth express their ideas about what they think the town needs in the following 4 categories: community housing, open space, recreation, and historic preservation. The CPC has invited you to come tonight not to talk about individual project ideas, but to think about how to improve Falmouth over the next few years and beyond. Please focus your thinking on the 4 funding categories and how best request. Identify yourself. So, welcome. Is there anyone who would like to speak? Ken, you've been sitting here. You were here first, so I think you should go first.
Okay, thanks. Well, I'm Ken Foreman, and I'm here representing tonight the 300 Committee. And I'd like to begin by thanking you for your past support. I think most recently you've provided $200,000 for the Sylvia Woodland and $800,000 for Tony Andrews Farm. So those were pure play open space preservation. And one of the things that the 300 Committee has been increasingly focusing on is the idea of doing joint open space and affordable housing projects where we could find partners. And there was some concern on the board that the CPC funding might, they might feel that if it's affordable housing fund, it cannot be used to acquire land. Although, of course, there is precedent for doing that because of the Little Pond Place as an example of an land acquisition where affordable housing went on the site. So I was hoping maybe also to get a little clarification from you folks on if a project were to come before you that involved land acquisition, that a portion of which might be used for affordable housing and a portion of which might be used for open space, how that would play out in the committee. And obviously, it sounds like you would only be funding affordable housing projects if they're 100% affordable. I was intrigued to hear that it's possible for you to give funding to private developers to upgrade, I guess, their 40B projects. So that, and I presume they then become 100% affordable. Is that, did I hear correctly with that?
That's what's happened twice.
Yeah.
We had two private developers with applications, and they both volunteered to do 100% of their development instead of the required 25%. And for the additional 75%, we funded construction for those units, some construction for those units.
I mean, I think that's a very creative solution. I love seeing us not build 3 market rate units every time we put up one affordable. But it does seem a little at odds with what you say in these guidelines on, I think it is page 9. Town government bodies, civic, nonprofit organizations may bring proposals to the CPC. CPC does not consider applications from private property owners. Is there some inconsistency there, or how? It's a question.
Well, wouldn't anybody with a 40B be a private property owner?
I would think so.
They
Is that why you voted against? Is that
against what? Voting against what?
against funding for that, for the 40B, the request we just heard from Mike Galasso?
The initial application request, I voted for it.
4, okay.
But the additional request, I voted not in favor of it.
So, if I'm understanding correctly, private developer might and do 100% affordable, for example, with the 300 committee, and also fundable through, in part at least, through,
If you're asking me, I just want to clarify that our group, the idea is to use the fund to buy additional deed-restricted units. But it doesn't require a for-profit developer to do all of his units or all of her units affordable. So if somebody had, let's use an example of 20 units, 5 are required by statute to be deed restricted. They may ask to have 5 more deed restricted and ask for some funds from our group to fund those 5, help fund those 5 units. So then they would have 50% deed restricted, 50% not deed restricted. So it doesn't have to be 100%.
okay,
But the idea, the theory is to buy additional deed-restricted units for the town of Falmouth in perpetuity for what we consider short money.
mm-hmm. So building on that, just occurs to me sitting here. Sure. Would you like to?
So just to clarify a little further, John, I believe you're referencing the Falmouth Affordable Housing
That's
Fund,
correct, yes.
not the CP fund.
Right, yeah.
So I just wanted to make that further
That's important.
clarification. So the vote that was taken prior to the start of the needs assessment
Was
meeting
not
was the
CPC.
Falmouth Affordable Housing Fund request, which the Community Preservation Committee is required to make a recommendation for
Okay.
to the trustees, which is the select board.
Okay,
So I
so
just
that-
wanted to clarify that a for-profit developer doing a 40B would more than likely not get funding through the Community Preservation Fund.
Okay.
Correct, John?
I believe that's correct.
Okay,
Thank you.
that's helpful.
So, I'm sure this is in the minutes somewhere, but my recollection is when Little Pond Landing was purchased by the town with CPC money, they didn't actually have a developer ready. They just said that part of it would be for a development. They hadn't worked out the whole plan. And the other thing is, somewhere along the line, way back when, I went to some seminar, and this was done like in, I don't know, someplace north of Boston. And what else could be included is historical preservation. So if there's a historical building, and there could be some housing, but there's also land for conservation, that could all be wrapped up in the project. Somebody would have to propose that. But I don't believe you have to have the developer in hand.
Okay, let me turn around for one other question, which is, developer comes, proposes more density than you want to preserve part of that parcel as open space. Can we buy down density using CPC funds?
Okay, well, I'll be back to you, I think.
Well, who owns the
I don't know
land?
the answer.
Who owns the land?
I guess probably it would, well, I mean, that would be the question. Maybe it could be transferred to public ownership.
I just add as well. Even before we see an application, it goes to the administrator and the consultant, even the town council, and then it's vetted there, it meets the criteria for us to then review it. Sometimes, it's very clear, other times it's not, but that's the traditional route that most of those decisions are reviewed.
And we also work with the coalition. If we get stuck on something, Maureen can call. So we pay for that, that's in our budget. So if we're not sure, we check with CPA experts.
Okay.
And we do recommend that you, if you have a project idea that you're uncertain about, you can always contact the staff and we can have a meeting and discuss it further.
I definitely like the idea of working together.
Well, of
Absolutely.
course,
I
of
mean,
course.
It's a win-win.
Yes, Sandy, I'm really intrigued by Ken's ideas. It seems to me, for the purposes of this hearing, we have the information I think we need, but I would invite you, Ken, first of all, as Maureen said, to talk to staff, but I personally would be more than happy to have you dragged out for another night to come to an agenda meeting where we can thrash out more specifics and get into some nitty-gritty. But I think there are a lot of, really interesting ideas that my sense is we'd want to pursue with this 300 committee.
Well, that's good feedback, and I will take that information back to the board and to Jessica, the administrator. So thank you all very much.
Bob, do you have a question?
Hello, I'm with the Recreation Committee. I'm a member who sits on Community Preservation.
Can you
I-
speak into the mic, please? Thank you.
I would think the Recreation Committee would love to partner with the 300 Committee if there was any active land that we could use for a youth soccer field or a youth lacrosse field, and partner with you in that. And that would be great. We're desperate for grass fields, any field. We haven't had a new field in, how long, Sandy? Grass field? Long time.
Right.
We're desperate, so if you come across land and you could cut some off for a soccer field or lacrosse field, that'd be fantastic. We'd love to work with you.
Well, there is history with that. I think Trotting Park was
That's how Trotting
one of the
Park-
first examples, right, where we partnered for joint recreation open space. So there's precedent
Great.
for that.
Well, we'd love to do it again.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Karen?
Hi, good evening. Karen Bissonette, Executive Director of the Falmouth Housing Trust. And Ken is right. Actually, in the last couple of years, we have tried desperately to try to do something with the 300 Committee. We put offers in on actually 3 different times. Twice on one piece of property that now everyone keeps talking about, and unfortunately, ours was not accepted. But anyway, yes, and we're currently trying to do something. So we're in the midst of something. So that's really exciting as well. But I would say that land is the most precious thing. And I was actually on the phone with Jessica Rittenauer today, and we were discussing how community housing gets money compared with, we don't have to go to the CPC outright, right? We can go to the Affordable Housing Fund. And that is a much quicker process, and that is why it was created, because CPC is a much longer process. So I have every confidence that if there was a project that the 2 organizations are working together, that would be something that people would support. So thank you for that. But yes, there is land, and the purchase of land is difficult because there's not much land. So I think that at Falmouth Housing Trust, we're going to try to encourage people that have smaller size lots that they cannot themselves build on, and try to acquire them and build some houses on those lots. So we probably will be coming in front of the Affordable Housing Working Group at some point, then the Select Board, for that. But I want to thank you for the money that you have allocated to community housing. And it is the most of any other of the 3 categories. And it's still not enough. And that is not saying that we're not grateful, and it's not saying because I know that you're limited. But so pretty much the money that you have allocated, the money that has been allocated by the town, and as you know, at November's town meeting a year ago, there was a $4 million allocation, and then there was short-term rentals and the community, what is that tax called? I always forget. Impact fee. So I just want you to be aware that the Affordable Housing Committee has been talking about a transfer fee. So we're going to be coming to the different organizations in town and chatting that up so we can answer people's questions. So that is going to be something that I just want the community to be aware that that's going to happen, because if you take the money, if the Affordable Housing Fund is giving $100,000 to $125,000 per unit, and we have $5 million in the pot, it's still not close to the 75 houses a year that we say we need, even to just prick the top of the problem. So we do need more money, not just me at Falmouth Housing Trust. We need it for the others, even for-profit builders, because we would like them to do more affordable. So I thank you so much for your support, and it's not just the money, it's the support as well, because that's really important to what we do. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Hello, my name is Jennifer Christian. I have some familiar faces in the room. I'm here on behalf of Farming Falmouth. We're a small, young organization that CPC inadvertently helped create. We were previously the Tony Andrews Farm Working Group, and so those CPC funds well spent on Andrews Farm, we actually get to participate in the activities there through subleases with Jeff Andrews. Just wanted to kind of thank you again and kind of let you know some of the things that have happened on Andrews Farm since that money came through and the town decided to save that farm. We've been able to plant 145 fruit trees, 800 row feet of apple orchard. We have over 45 garden spaces in our community garden. And this year we started a garden specifically for the service center. So that land is being well used and well utilized by the community, and we're really grateful for that money that sealed the deal and that cooperation. As I was looking through the categories, I chuckled a little bit because community gardens are under open space. Putting open space for farmland preservation, meeting all categories. And just to kind of touch on those, the open space is pretty obvious. I mean, I think when people think of farming, some people think of long rows, big tractors, destruction only, and a little more against the grain of nature's natural way of things, as an ecology, and what a lot of open space saving is doing. It's saving the ecology, it's saving it as is, and we're so grateful for all the land the 300 Committee and you all have helped preserve. But farming is an open space. Peterson Farm is a great example, right? Anybody who's gone for a walk there has seen the beauty and the value of that land really go up for the community just by being used by farmers. And I think that's a special thing, again, that the town did. And so we are advocating for a whole lot more of agricultural preservation. We believe it touches on the open space, the historic resources. Everybody in this room has a history with a farm, whether you know it or not. I mean, people in my generation are a little more disconnected, and that is a big concern of ours as well, right? Because you don't work to save something if you don't know it exists. So historic preservation, lands that you guys have under there, which I think is fantastic. We are about to put our third community garden here in Falmouth at Peterson Farm. So all of our community gardens are on town-owned land at this time, and I believe a good chunk of them had CPC funding involved. And again, community housing, My personal story is that I've struggled with homelessness since I moved here as a farmer. That is my profession, that is my chosen calling in life, and I know I'm going to be broke the rest of my life, and I'm fine with that. But housing is always going to be an issue if land is this expensive for people like me who would dive into farming head first and feed this community. But that piece of the housing, I haven't even been able to farm in the last 2 years here because of housing. And it's things like that where we hope that some of these parcels have these historic farmhouses that are worth saving. And those are beautiful, right? An old farmhouse has just got all that character in the world. But then there's housing for farmers, right? So farmers can exist, land can be used for farming, it's open space, and even agrotourism now becoming a whole buzz. There's whole new styles of agriculture that I think our organization really wants to highlight because we don't have 100-acre farms anymore. CPC already helped us save the biggest farm in town. Whew, we dodged a bullet, right? But now all we have left is these little pieces, right, tucked around, and we're all biting off we're trying to get these pieces, and affordable housing is on our list, specifically for farmers, obviously. And so we just wanted to kind of say thank you and let you know that we hope to be coming in front of you for CPC funding because we have recently joined the Cape Compact of Land Trusts and are hoping to start acquiring our first parcels to keep in active agriculture with regenerative and sustainable practices really pushed so that the ecology is protected, so that the open space is beautiful and not dusty because the soil's not covered, all sorts of things that I could go into detail. But I hope you will look favorably on open space, specifically for agriculture in the future. If you have any questions, I'm happy to stand up here and do that.
Anybody have any questions?
Sounds like another dual purpose.
Sounds wonderful, thank you very much.
Quad purpose.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to share? Yes, Susan. Come on down. Tom,
Cindy, I
did you
just
wanna
think
add
at some point, even though it's not technically on the agenda, but just to remind the audience here of what our deadlines are for next spring's annual town meeting. I think it's August something for applications, just so people know if they have a specific project,
Yeah,
what
Maureen
our
will do
deadlines
that.
are.
August 9th is the deadline for applications for fiscal year 2024 and town meeting in April, next April.
Susan Shepherd, I grew up on a farm, and then I moved to Cape Cod, and it was a very different thing. I joined Farming Falmouth right in the beginning to try to save Tony Andrews Farm, and like Jenny said, I think CPC deserves a lot of credit for helping us with that, helping the town with that. The only thing I want to add is something that came up at town meeting, and that was climate and our children and the future. One of the things about the kinds of farming that we are proposing is that it's regenerative. We are taking pollution out of the air, not putting it in. These are new old methods, I think, is what I would call them, and we would kind of require that in the future if and when Jeff, well, even it's not if, but when Jeff decides to no longer farm Andrews Farm, I would hope that we would move in that same direction where we're not tilling, not spraying, not fertilizing in the commercial ways. So I just think I have grandchildren. Sometimes I wonder, I'm going to die before things are going to change severely enough for me to feel it. But the future's ahead of us, and it's got a lot of problems, and this is just attacking it in a small way, bit by bit, but, you know, the passion's there, so thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I didn't prepare anything, but I think I better say something. My name is Carrie Walton, and I'm on the Affordable Housing Committee, but I'm not speaking for the committee. I'm just speaking as an individual. First of all, as everyone else, I want to thank you for the money you gave us for Brian Switzer's film. He's making a movie about affordable housing in Falmouth, and the goal of that is to have more of the town understand what the problem is that we have. And the problem we have, the business people have in not being able to get help, and other people have in not being able to find any place to live, including the students at Hui and everyone. So we will be coming again for more money and trying to see what we can do to try to get more money. And as Karen said, we are thinking seriously about a real estate transfer fee and see if we can get that moving. But that's going to be a long process because although a lot of towns on the Cape are doing it and have bills this session, we don't have one yet, and we're still thinking about, well, should we have one? Should Falmouth be a leader in this effort to get a little more money for affordable housing? So we are working on that, and I'm sure you'll hear a lot more about it in the future. And that's it. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
When is the video that Brian Switz is doing?
He is editing it now,
Okay.
and so I'm hoping soon. I'm sorry?
Do you know about how long it'll be?
In the original plans, there was going to be a very short one that would be appropriate for social media, and there would be a longer one that might be more appropriate for a meeting, so it's going to be flexible so that we can have the length that's appropriate for the audience.
Right. I wondered how you were going to get the word out.
Right.
So once it's created.
Once it's created, we'll do the best we can to get it everywhere possible so people can understand. Anybody that belongs to a club and you want to see the movie, well, you're welcome. We're welcome to show it. Yeah.
And will it be online?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Maureen.
I would like to read Kimberly Fish, the housing coordinator's memo to the CPC specifically for the needs assessment, if that's okay?
Sure.
Great. So this was,
Yeah, I actually think it can be entered into the record without it being read.
I said she could read it.
thank
Go ahead.
you. This is dated May 4th. As we all know, Falmouth is in desperate need of attainable housing and a broad range of area median incomes. We are rapidly losing our young families and workforce due to lack of inventory in affordable housing. The number of students in the Falmouth Public Schools has decreased tremendously in the last few years, and 48% of the workers on Cape Cod commute from off Cape because they are unable to find housing on Cape. The Select Board has identified affordable housing as one of its top priorities. In order for the town to continue to assist with the creation of more attainable housing, it needs to ensure that the Falmouth Affordable Housing Fund has funding. Grants from the Falmouth Affordable Housing Fund have generated a significant number of housing units. Since 2016, there have been about 142 rental units and 7 homes for home ownership. The Select Board, as trustees of the Falmouth Affordable Housing Fund, just recently approved a $500,000 grant to Falmouth Housing Trust for 4 new single-family affordable deed-restricted homes. There are some potential projects that the Falmouth Affordable Housing Fund anticipates receiving applications for in the near future. At Gepesket Gardens, of approximately $1.2 million, the letter of intent has been received for this project. Emerald Properties, possibly $2 million. Housing Opportunity Purchase Program, potentially $750,000. 805 Gifford Street, potentially $500,000. 545 Main Street, potentially $1 million. Thankfully, with the support of the CPC, the fund has maintained a balance and has been able to assist with housing projects. My hope is that the CPC continues to make housing a priority as we move forward and try to navigate this crisis together. Again, that's from Kim Fish, our housing coordinator. Thank you.
Yes, I thought that was a good letter.
So Sandy, just to repeat, I'm sorry to push back, but I do want any written materials received to be incorporated into the hearing record is what my point was. That simple point.
It's in the record because it's in our minutes. If it's in
I-
our packet, it's
I didn't
public
know
record.
I never heard of hearing minutes, so, sorry.
Okay. Bob?
Thank you. My name is Bob Brown again. I'm Recreation Committee, and I'll give you a little report on recreation. Presently,
Make sure you speak into the mic, I'm sorry. Thank you.
presently, there's a couple projects that are going right now in recreation, and I think I'd be remiss not to thank the Falmouth Water Stewards that have put water fountains throughout the town, as most importantly for our committee, at recreation areas as well as at the Recreation Department. And more is coming to active recreation areas, which we appreciate. Right now, open projects at Nye Park, which is going to do tennis and pickleball and basketball courts. We're also gave some money for the Shining Sea Bikeway extension for some engineering. Engineering and design. In Woods Hole, we have a project pending for tennis courts and pickleball courts rehabilitation at Bell Tower. The Governor Fuller Field, which looks fabulous, is almost done. There's some technical difficulties in getting some supplies to nail down on a roof, but hopefully they'll come soon. And that should close out. There's a play space money for design and engineering that's still outstanding in East Falmouth, and I believe that's still being worked on and being planned. And I think Steve's the liaison for that. Falmouth Youth Baseball improvements at Little League. That project is a very big project. It's $1.4 million and desperately needed. That's a safety concern. It's completely it's just not in a good condition for the children to play. We have money that's waiting to be spent, and we're hoping the shovels will be in the ground in the fall. And we may have to come back, or the Falmouth Recreation Department may have to come back and ask for more money due to inflation. That project was delayed as a result of the bid didn't get out soon enough, and unfortunately, the fields weren't fixed up, and the backstops and the fencing wasn't put in before this new season. We're hoping that project gets done before the baseball season in 2024. The children have been waiting for that for a long time. Also, there are other projects that we do need in town. In January 31st in 2017, the Community Preservation Athletic Master Field Plan was sent to the town that was paid for by the Community Preservation, and they recommended 9 grass fields or 3 turf fields. Not a single grass field has been built. Not a single grass field community preservation application has been filed with us yet. We hope so someday. And only 1 artificial turf field was built. Recreation is still looking for projects, either through community preservation or through the capital plan to bring Falmouth recreation fields, tennis courts, basketball courts, pickleball courts into the 21st century, with restrooms that are accessible, with even worst case scenario, portable restrooms. But I think the time has come. It's 2023. These facilities are in other towns with good fields, artificial turf fields, great grass fields, and handicapped accessibility. Falmouth has a major problem with that. Little League has a major problem with that, has no handicapped accessibility. So I'm hoping that the town can put community preservation applications in to us, for us to review, vote on, and bring it to town meeting to meet the needs of our youth, meet the needs of our adults, and most importantly, meet the needs of the physically challenged people that can get to these events. So that's what the Recreation Committee is hoping for, more applications for active recreation, and pickleball courts too. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Well done. Is there anyone else that would like to report on anything? Any comments? Yes, sir.
He did, yes. Jed Goldstone, Precinct 2. Sorry, I was driving a kid back and forth to Trotting Park. You don't have an application for this now, but a comment, sort of a needs, if you wish, in terms of drinking water at Trotting Park. It's not, I don't know if it's in the current list of places for a water station. I know it's been held up by the fact that the water department, it's very expensive because they'll have to run a water main a long way. And so they've been reluctant to provide that particular funding. So I'm a little behind in terms of my knowledge, and I apologize for not being here earlier, but I actually have to go and get a kid from Trotting Park.
Well, just so you know, that was actually on our agenda last night at the Recreation Committee meeting.
Okay.
We're going to be, we have money appropriated to put one turf field out at Trotting Park.
Design only.
Design only.
Design.
Yes. Fix up the old skate park and build the pickleball courts. And so I asked Joe to make sure when they're designing or planning this, to have the water main come in so we can get water down there.
Right.
So that's, again, we need affordable housing because we don't have enough staff on the DPW, and we haven't for years. So affordable housing is huge.
No, I know.
And
It's
if
there's
that's every-
limited money and yeah, and
Yes, we need
competing
the water mains, I got you.
competing imperatives. Thank you.
Anybody else? Well then, I'll thank you all for coming. Does committee members have anything?
Do we need to adjourn?
We can close the needs assessment hearing.
When is our next meeting?
Okay, it is 7:08, and I will close the needs assessment hearing. Thank you, everyone, for coming and your input, and
Thanks, everyone.
hopefully we'll
He wants to know the next meeting.
affordable housing and recreation.